Hey guys, it's Mr. Schmidt here, and in the last video for Unit 6, I'm going to talk about constant and increasing cost industries. But before I do that, there is one thing from the last video on fixed and variable costs that I didn't mention that I want to mention really quickly here. And that's the idea of the difference between per unit and lump sum. Okay, so you're going to see both of these terms used with perfect competition and actually with monopoly too in Unit 7. And they'll be paired with the idea of a tax or a subsidy. And so what I want to do really quickly is just help you understand what they mean by that. So a per unit tax or subsidy means we're either increasing the cost with a tax of each unit that's being produced, or a subsidy, we're reducing the cost of each individual unit. And so if it's per unit, that is going, in the case of a tax, to increase average total cost and marginal cost. And if it's a subsidy, it will reduce those costs. So basically, per unit, you need to think variable cost. With lump sum, this is the idea of the government saying, okay, regardless of how much you produce, you have to give us 50 bucks, or we'll take 50 bucks off no matter what you produce, just flat 50 bucks. And so that's basically a change in fixed cost, which means ATC will rise on a tax or fall on a subsidy, and only ATC. So, and yes, you can add an AVC here if you want as well for the subsidy and the tax on per unit. So just wanted to throw that in there really quickly. It is something you're going to see, and I didn't want you to not have it. Now with that in mind, let's actually start the purpose of this video. Before I draw anything, I want to make something very, very clear. This is not something that you are probably going to have to worry about. In fact, I would give it a 95 to 98% chance, somewhere in there, that this will never come up on an AP exam, and it probably won't even come up on a unit assessment, an AP classroom, anything like that. It's just not that common. In fact, it's only ever been asked on one FRQ ever, but I am going to show it to you here. So if it's something that you're like, that doesn't make sense to me, don't worry about it. But if it is something that you want to wrap your brain around, and it will help you on the assignments as well, here it is. And it's the idea of a constant cost versus an increase in cost industry. So what I want to do is go ahead and draw for the final time in this unit. Actually, I love that, but I want to make it a little thinner. So for the final time in this unit, or at least in this video, let's do supply and demand for our market. And I know I don't always do a good job of remembering to write market and firm, so there you go. And then quantity $sign over here. So again, as your skills develop in doing this, this does get easier to do very quickly. So that's kind of a test. If you can do this pretty quickly, then you've drawn it enough times. If you have to really think about it, then, maybe draw it a few more times here. But we are going to go ahead and put it in long run equilibrium here. You know what? And that's just kind of a good habit to get into when you're drawing perfect competition. Just put it in long run to start. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through an example of moving from long run to short run and back, just like we've done before. And then I'm going to show you one more thing about it. So we're going to say that's demand to the right again. And so we've already done this example before, so I'm not going to really spend too much time on the mechanics. But there's an increase in demand for the product that is going to increase the price of the product to P2. And so now we have a new marginal revenue curve, MR1 equals D1. So now we're making a profit, which is going to encourage firms to enter the industry, and that would move us back to P1, supplied to the right. So that was the idea from the last video. Now, what I want to emphasize here is what I'm going to draw here or highlight with a green line. This here is the long run market supply curve, okay? This is the long, I'm going to put SLR, the long run market supply curve. The supply curve you've been drawing since Unit 2 is actually the short run supply curve. In the long run, it's perfectly elastic. And so the question is, why is this? Well, the answer is because if you have a long run market supply curve, you have what is called a constant cost industry. What a constant cost industry is, it is an industry in which the prices of resources aren't changing, constant cost, as firms are competing over the resources. Because remember, if you're competing against all the other firms in the industry, in the market, you're fighting all over for the same workers, for the same tools, all of that. But what we're saying here is as that fighting's occurring, nothing is happening to the cost of those resources, the price of those resources. They're staying the same. So in the long run, everyone's competing at the same price point, and so the long run supply curve is perfectly elastic because the cost of the resources used to produce the product aren't changing. And what's nice about this is by far almost every single AP question is going to be a constant cost industry, which is good because basically you can pretty much not have to worry at all and just know how to do long run equilibrium like we did it in the last video. Great, fantastic, wonderful. Okay, that's a constant cost industry. Long run supply curve goes through what I've highlighted in green there. However, there is a special case called an increase in cost industry. There's also decrease in cost industries, but I've never seen that, so I'm not going to show it to you. But increase in cost, I've seen it once or twice, so I'm going to show it to you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to back out here, and I'm going to go back to the same example, but I'm not going to move the supply curve in response to the demand curve changing. I'm actually going to leave it right, right here, okay, where we just did the impact of the demand shift to the right. So again, increase in demand for the product. Now, in an increase in cost industry, which is what this example is, as firms are fighting over the resources, when firms are coming in and they're fighting for the resources, okay, they are driving up the price of the resources because they are increasing the demand for them. And in this case, the prices are allowed to change. The price of the resources is not perfectly elastic, and so they can change. And they're going to go up because firms are fighting over them. And nothing is keeping them from changing, okay, to simplify this. And so what happens is that you're actually going to see an increase in variable costs because, let's face it, workers, hammers, tools, all of those are variable inputs and have variable costs. And so we're going to treat this now as if there's an increase in variable costs and apply what we learned a couple videos ago with a change in variable costs. So what would that do? If there's an increase in variable costs, that's going to, first of all, it's going to move marginal cost down, it's going to move, not that. If there's an increase in variable cost, it's going to move marginal cost up, which means we're going to put it on the other side, actually. So it's going to move up. So then the other thing it's going to do is it's going to increase average total cost. And so now in the new long run equilibrium, what's going to happen here, the way we draw this matters because basically here's our new supply curve when firms enter, okay? And then we bring this over and say, okay, here's P3, and then we're going to move it over, and then we're going to go right through here, okay, and here's MR3, okay, and notice it doesn't come all the way down, it doesn't come all the way back to marginal revenue, because the price of the product is not going to come all the way back down because some firms aren't going to get there. Some firms aren't going to stay in the market to bring the price all the way down because they're going to miss out on resources because there's only so many. Price of the resources are higher. Some firms can't afford to buy the resources. And so then what we have here at MC1 MR3, we have a new average total cost curve here. Yes, it's at break even, but it is higher than it was before. And so what you see here, if we were to draw the long run supply curve, which goes through both equilibrium points, you now see that it is upward sloping. Very, very complicated stuff there, okay? And the good news is that you are almost guaranteed not to see an increase in cost industry question on the AP exam, a multiple choice question. I'm most likely, in fact, I can almost guarantee you not going to put it on an assessment or an AP classroom. I may show the FRQ that was an increase in cost industry in class or put it online or whatever for you to try it. But again, not something you're really going to have to worry about because they're almost always going to be constant cost industries where you don't have to do all this crazy stuff over here. So if this confused you, if this bothered you, if you're like, I'm not sure I get it, don't worry about it. You can come talk to me about it, ask me some questions. Not something you really need to worry about. The biggest thing you need to be able to do is with a constant cost industry, moving demand, moving supply, going from one break-even point to another, that's all, but that's what you need to be able to do. So that's all for this video on constant and increasing cost industries. Until next time, have a great day.